Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are stepping into a new season here. It is the spring 2025 season for NECC Valorant. My name is Sam Talks. Joining me is Pausable. Pausable, what better way to start off week one than stepping into Division One, where we have Baker College going up against UCSD?
Oh, it's going to be a very spicy match here, Sam. I am so glad to be back here for another season of NECC. We got a long season ahead of us, but it all starts right here. You want every win you can to try and qualify for those playoffs later on down the road. But first things first, we got to get into our very first game. Like you said, it's going to be the Baker Swarm versus UCSD. I mean, UCSD, a name that's been in Collegiate Valorant a long time. A lot of these players very familiar to us. Wick, Melvin, Chrome, of course, all members of that like former Demigod squad. They've been at UCSD forever. It is a formidable opponent for Baker Swarm here.
Yeah, it is. And to even touch on Baker Swarm, right? Division 2 last season, managing to step into the shoes of Division 1 now, but also looking at what this team is, Dumbbell, Ladder, Rice Ball, Fate, and Demon, right? This is a team that has been playing around in the Tier 2 circuit, right? They went into the Challengers Open qualifiers, didn't get very far, but they still put themselves out there. They still want to try and play for those higher stakes that you can get in the Tier 2 scene of Valorant. And so no surprise here to see them in Division 1, and no surprise here that we're going to have an explosive week 1 matchup. Listen, if I'm not blown out of my chair, then I don't know what's going to happen, Paul.
Well, Melvin's in this match, so at least that's a pretty high likelihood. And you know, the other thing about Baker Swarm is that they get a lot of reps, like mostly as a whole team. Like you were talking about, they play together, and I think it's called Aspire X Baker. It's like the Aspire org has kind of collaborated with the Baker school, similar to what we saw like Converse do with Nightblood Gaming at that last year. So we'll see how well that works for them. I'm excited. Reps are reps, and reps are important. Getting practice together, whether it's in an actual match trying to qualify for challengers or whether it's here in NECC, every rep is an important rep. And if you want to try and be the best and be up there in the Collegiate Hall of Fame, make it to Tier 2, your Marylands and Winthrops and what have you, first things first, you got to be stomping in the collegiate battle scene. So let's see how Baker Swarm wants to debut in NECC.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's going to be something crazy. I'm hoping that we're going to have something as crazy as the maps we have coming up here, Pausable, because let me tell you, these are going to be some spicy places that we're going, right? Ascent is out of the map pool, by the way. So if you're looking forward to that, well, no, not anymore, right? We're going to be starting off with Split, going into, this makes me so happy, going into Fracture.
This is so spicy.
I know, right?
Yeah, and then that Haven decide, man, I very much see a world where this ends up as a Haven decider. I mean, Split is a map that UCSD have liked for a really long time. I'm excited to see them start that one off, although they will start on the attack. Fracture is the pick from Baker Swarm. There's been a lot of, if you've been paying attention, especially to like the VCT circuit, teams have been cooking up a lot of different strats that isn't necessarily always something that transfers to collegiate very quickly though, right? So I'm wondering, are we going to see like those Teos coming in? Are we going to see like, those like Vice compositions coming in, especially like a map like Split and Fracture, multiple Sentinels rolling around? I'm very intrigued as to what comps we're going to be seeing, because I think that'll tell us a lot about the current play styles of these two teams.
Exactly right. We're kind of getting spoon fed our first taste of what the the atmosphere of how these setups are going to be, how the agent composition is going to be looking. And like you even mentioned, the latest agent of Tejo has really been shaking up the atmosphere in cataclysmic ways, right? It's been shaking up the meta where you don't really know what's going to happen. And maybe, like you said, we're seeing out of the VCT circuit, being able to translate it here into collegiate. If one team is able to successfully do that, if one team is able to look at, the Sins or the Levitons of the world, who knows what can happen, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about collegiate is a lot of the time it ends up being a lot of the same stuff, right? We got Haven later. There's no world in which I imagine we're gonna get anything particularly spicy on Haven. I'm seeing the like default Haven comp, especially in collegiate, right? But these first two maps, I think, spell a little bit of a different story. So will we actually get somewhat of a varied composition, or is it gonna be like heavily relying on like your typical like Rays and your Cypher, what have you, for Split, especially with Baker Swarm? I'm looking at their composition most closely as they'll be starting on the defensive Split.
Yeah, and even talking about the just nature of how Split works and some of the things that we have been getting out of this map, right? It's still kind
Hmm.
of that map again where you're seeing some of that Tejo play come in, but not as much as you would get out of something like Fracture or some of the smaller maps like
Yeah,
Blind. And we've also been seeing the return of Astra in a massive way, right? Especially on the
very
bigger
much
maps like
true.
what we could get out of Split. And so having the return of her and the possibilities that she brings when it comes to her post plant denial, when it comes to setting teams up for actually getting onto the site itself, and even the pseudo sentinel role she kind of fills in as well, right? Being
Hmm.
able to delay pushes out long enough for the team to either regroup or even just holding down a site by herself. I mean, we're seeing teams now sometimes even just foregoing it and saying, all right, Astra, you just do it all. That does require a level of teamwork and team play, though, that you need to be coordinated on at its utmost
Yeah.
efficiency. And for our Division 1 teams, we would expect no less.
Not less. I would say adjacent though. I
Adjacent.
mean, it's not uncommon for our collegiate rosters, especially at the high echelons, for a lot of them to be like, well, we could play Astra and it'd be complicated, but we also have all this schoolwork that we want to do, and like, let's just run
Lots
Omen
love.
and Frag and run at people.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's just run Omen. It's not going to be bad anywhere. Omen's playable on almost every map. Let's just run Omen and run at people. That works fine too, right? So we'll have to see on the individual stylizations if anyone is able to pick up that Astra. I certainly think for the long haul, teams that are going to be able to effectively utilize Astra are going to be ahead of the teams that aren't. That is most definitely the
Yeah.
case here, Sam.
Yeah, and I think that's also why we don't see maps like Pearl in the rotation for our map selection right now. It's just big maps. It hasn't been in it for a very long time, and so you're dealing with some of that uncomfortability that comes along with it. And that's not even to talk about
Mhm.
Ascent being out of the map pool right now, and the ideas of the teams having to work around not having one of the most popular collegiate maps in the games, bar none the most popular map in the game as well. And then you look over so you go from Split into Fracture, where we kind
Yeah,
of have that set meta in our minds of what Fracture can look like, even
sure.
with Tejo, right? You still have that fallback of the KJ or Cypher with the Sova,
Hmm.
Breach, Raze combination, and with Brimstone.
Yeah, the Brimstone. Yeah, absolutely. I don't. The thing about it is, I just haven't seen Baker Swarm play.
Yeah.
All I know is that they've picked Fracture, a map that even at the height of its popularity in collegiate Valorant wasn't very popular. And a map that's been gone for a while in most levels of collegiate play. You know, there wasn't as much collegiate Valorant in the fall as previous years. Still quite a bit,
Yeah.
admittedly, but none of it had Fracture. And the semester before that, we didn't have Fracture. It's been a while since that's actually been in collegiate rotation. So I'm excited to see where this ends up taking us and what Baker Swarm have in store.
Yeah, I mean, just taking a look and seeing, like going through their VLR and taking a look at the Aspire
Hmm.
Swarm squad.
Yeah.
The last time they did play Split was in that the OQ4 Challengers,
Okay.
and listen, they got some spicy ideas. Listen, no Astra. Okay, so we don't have to worry about
Okay.
that. They do like to play around with the Omen, but there's going to be a spicier pick in there that I don't know if we're quite ready for, right? When it comes to their Sentinel choice, right? We because Split's kind of that map where if you have someone who can wall something in mid or any of the
Oh,
important choke points, very very good. I'm going to leave you with that, Paul, right? Because there's two
so
agents
they're
that can do that, three agents
they're
that can do that.
3 Sentinel agents with a wall?
Yeah, yeah. It's Sage,
Vice
Deadlock,
Sage, who am I missing? Deadlock. Okay,
Deadlock.
you were counting that as wall. I was thinking of it as an X, right? I wasn't thinking of it as a wall. And technically, you're right, though. Yeah, okay, interesting. Well, then
I
it's
get.
between. Okay, well, then I don't know which one it is, actually. I was pretty confident I knew, and now I don't think I do.
Oh, the way I think of it is if I can't go through it, it must be a wall. So
No, I mean, that makes more sense than what I was thinking. The way I thought of it was if I can't shoot through it, it's a wall.
see, that makes more sense though, right? Okay, and you know what, Paul? I'm gonna give you that one. All right, we'll go halvesies on that, right? We're both correct.
Okay,
You can't go through it, but
so-
you can still shoot through it.
So it is Deadlock?
It is, yes.
Okay.
I think I played my hand a little too much there.
I was like, we're really getting to the weeds on these semantics here. Well, we're just waiting for all players to get comfortably in lobby, folks. We want to make sure both teams are ready and everything is fair starting off. Someone apparently has crashed, so we might be another second or so.
Ill omens for your first map of the evening.
On
the first week. Omen on Split. Wow.
You said they played the Omen.
I did say they played the Omen. They also
we'll have to see if he's ill or not, either in the good or bad context of that word, connotation of that word.
Taking a look at the stats, Paul, it's hey, agent select coming up here. So let's take a look, see at our agents that we're gonna get out of here.
Oh my. Okay,
oh
Split starting us off.
Astra.
And a Vise as well. So I mean, you were saying about how they played Split in the VCL qualifiers, but it seems like they have learned their lessons. They've adapted their comp. That was admittedly almost a full month ago at this point, too. Wow, these are stretches of different compositions. I mean, Melvin on the Chamber is not terribly surprising. We've seen several different teams try to pull out the Chamber here on Split. There's some contention as to whether or not Chamber is... I mean, obviously he's viable on this map, but is it his best map? I was listening to Sliggy talk the other day, and he was pretty convinced that this is Chamber's worst map. I don't know if I quite believe with that at the moment, but Melvin will certainly have an opportunity to prove us wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the hands of Melvin, right? So gotta show up and show us what that Chamber is all about. And I think I do see where Sliggy is coming from, where Chamber only has that one trip and the control of mid is so key, so important to how this map is going to be. The flip side, though, is that you have a Vice, right, for the Baker Swarm.
So Vice is fascinating. I was thinking, because when you brought up the walls thing, I was thinking, man, I don't know if I would really like Vice here, just because I don't know if the range of some of her sound sensors would be super applicable, because I feel like a lot of the times if you would be able to put a sound sensor in a certain place, by the time you get the information from that, it's already like they're barreling past the sound sensor and you're getting executed on a site. So I'm interested to see how that gets played here for Baker Swarm. Both really fascinating compositions. The Breach, too, coming in from Baker Swarm. Look, I'm going to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of Breach on Split these days. But I think there are pros and cons to it. I think a lot of the lines are a little harder to hit, and you have to be very well coordinated, which is not bad. It's just higher skill ceiling to execute properly.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And that's kind of the problem with Split and Breach, is that scaling up as a team where Breach kind of needs to still hang behind, because you're thinking of a lot of different places that you could use Breach's fault line, right? You're thinking of Heaven for both sites, or even trying to use it up B main or something like that. It gets very difficult to successfully use an agent like that.
I am looking at Baker Swarm's comp, and it's just a nightmare of flashes. You're not going to be able to see anything. I mean, you've got Yoru, Vice, and Breach all on the same team. That is so many flashes. That's such an aggressive composition. I'm expecting a lot of either retakes or, look, you can see 3 players all set up in mid. They were hoping to get some noise, Baker Swarm, as we start out on Split. But UCSD headed elsewhere.
Yeah, right. You have the entire group of UCSD Gold that was all up in B main, but met enough resistance, that one poison orb, enough to deter them away. But Melvin is already putting this Chamber to great use. That lurk coming to massive fruition and has slightly chipped away at the defenses of A. May get another fight on their hands. Oh, so close. 13 HP. They successfully get away, but that's where low-key Cow able to bring them up 1.
I mean, that's a huge pick, too. The Viper was trying to creep. Contact. Oh, Chrome! Gotta be a little bit careful there, buddy. That's some information, at least, and he can cut that off, but UCSD, they're going to struggle a little bit as to where to actually play through. Chrome gets pinched, and nobody trades him. Actually, Demon getting another pick on the low-health Melvin. I mean, it was a headshot either way. But now you're basically forced to go sight. I can only hope that Wick has a smoke, and it doesn't seem like it. CSD, I think, bit off a little bit more than they could chew here. I just don't see a world where Frost gets this done. I mean, that helps, but no dice.
The world was slowly coming into view before it threw itself out, right? One shot each with the classic would have been enough had
True.
the shots been able to land from Frost, but UCSD kind of just got, I think, right, they got the first blood from Melvin, but Fate not dying on A, right, did so much damage to Melvin when they TP'd away, 13 HP. Did the same thing to Chrome inside of Vince. So even though they didn't secure the kills, it was enough for the rest of the team, for Baker Swarm, to see themselves through this round.
Yeah, the pacing from UCSD with Chrome trying to capitalize and get through mid to assist Melvin, but Melvin had backed up, and then Chrome stuck in vent. It's just a little disparate. Whereas Baker Swarm, they did an excellent job playing together. This is probably going to be a jump peek from Dumbbell. Ooh, actually goes for the fake smoke and some spam. Dumbbell didn't buy up either. It's actually a pretty light anti-eco here for Baker Swarm.
We're looking towards seeing them want to get that win, but this time Melvin has their revenge, right? They are doing this A-lurk by themselves. They are this rogue element that so far just hasn't been good enough. Oh my God, Melvin, how do you keep doing it? It's just not fair.
Yeah, that's the Outlaw, though. Don't want to take too heavy of a fight with that. And now, I mean, the pressure's coming in. Sure, the guns are far superior here for Baker Swarm, but enough util, and actually, UCSD have really good control of the map. The problem is they don't 100% know that they have good control of the map because no one's gone over to assist Melvin just yet. This is cheeky from Dumbbell. Oh, he will be heard. No way he gets away with this. Somebody clear this, please. I beg of you.
There's no way they come out of that. This is where the breach is coming in, right? They set him up for the pop flash, but Dumbbell's classic is just not hitting properly for them. Here it comes with the judge. Flying in with the speed of fury. Now Rice Ball is stuck in the back. Has to be careful with the Bulldog. Very valuable weapon. Oh, clean headshot there, but traded out by Low-Key Cow. We're running low on time. Less than 10 seconds, but just enough to make it happen. There it is. The Outlaw switch over to the Ghost.
Ooh.
Frost through the wall. UCSD gold. Striking back in the anti-eco.
Wow, and there you see the power that that pick Melvin gets can have over on A. I mean, dealt a lot of the damage there. The only reason Frost is even able to get that pick at the end is because of some of the damage that Melvin dealt earlier. I mean, it was a wall bang with the Sheriff. Sure, it has high pen, but that is still tricky. What a flip there from UCSD. Just not afraid to fight. That's one of the things I've always loved about UCSD. Because they got guys like Melvin and Chrome, they're not afraid. They're so mechanically sharp a lot of the time when it comes to their aim that even guns down, they're willing to go for something. Speaking of, Baker, not afraid to go for something themselves. I mean, this is so many flashes. If you're not ready, but it seems like UCSD are. They're thinking about this. They've considered it.
Wow, this is just a meat grind. Frost 3K? That's massive, right? They have their ultimate now. The Seekers are online. And really, at this point, you could just save that for the next round. It's just ladder moves all alone. And you saw how many players dip out of there? Oh, ladder. You saw the tip of the Outlaw barrel. But yeah, it was just a classic. Switch over to that Bucky you had in hand.
Well, and I'm wondering at this point, how much is Melvin going to be able to get away on this default lurk through A main? I mean, it's every round he's changing up the pacing ever so slightly to catch them off guard. You could tell Ladder Moves knew that Melvin was hanging around somewhere, but he took so long going up ramp that Ladder was looking for him elsewhere. That's why he pulled out the classic. He was like, man, is he just holding like A main or something? He's changing it up, and even here we have a little bit of a change up. It's not Melvin on the lurk anymore. He's gonna peek his head out B main and fake like everybody else has gone over toward A.
And meanwhile, Low-Key Cow is gonna be the one to take up that lurking mantle. It's a 1-1-3 inside of mid, trying to take their chances and fight off here. This is where Sky's power comes into massive handy! But Faye couldn't get the gate crash out in time. The TP not working quite as well for the Yoru. It has been their chamber, but there is a silver lining here where there was a trade. But Frost is so quick on these engagements, right? We saw the 3K last go around, and now we're seeing the Seekers pop to figure out just where the remaining players are going to be hiding.
I mean, they know there's 2B. It's just a question of whether or not Ladder Moves can win this fight, and that's such a hard fight to win. You have no idea which part of the vent that head is going to pop over from. I mean, it's just guaranteed what? Surely he can't get a second. Okay, Low-Key Cow stabilizes and the spike will be recoverable. I worried a little bit there. But this should be UCSD again.
We're all over the edge of our seats. Dumbbell by themselves, a 1v3. Spike is going to be planted. I think the call being made absolutely to just save your weapon. You're in dire economic straits, and this has just been UCSD playing phenomenal Valorant in just, like you said, the pure mechanical sense. And Baker wanting to go for these peaks, right? You saw Fate in through mid, trying to gate crash out, do the Yoru thing with a pop flash, but then they got hit by the dog and just didn't get out in time, right? The second you get hit by the dog, you should be gone. But this is how UCSD is just playing. They're playing, once they get something off the back of their utility, they are on the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, he was caught in animation. He was trying to go. I think the unlucky timing there is like he doesn't know the Trailblazer is coming through, which might be like a comms issue. I feel like he should have been able to hear it, that it was at least up. Trying to timing off the Trailblazer is rather bold. But either way, UCSD, an excellent first couple of rounds. And I mean, they've already got, because they flipped that second round on their head, so much money.
So much money.
Not so much the case for Baker Swarm. They're on the precipice of some really important ults, though. If Ladder and Demon can manage to get an early pick here, I could see a world where they try and flip this for a Thrifty, invest some ults. Especially if you manage to get the Vice ult, because then, I mean, you know, hey, everybody in the lobby has pistols then. It's a fair fight.
You know what? You bring up an excellent point. Fair fights. Let's see how fair this fight is going to go this round, right? Melvin, Scene, they know what this chamber likes to play with. They wanted to go for a swing of their own, but Melvin has different ideas of what Fate entails for themselves as they continue.
Wow.
Right, streaking a rampage onto A site, completely opened it wide for the team that went in through Vince to come on the site. But it doesn't matter because UCSD is winning a war across all fronts.
And I mean, at this point, Baker Swarm just need to chill a little bit. I think they're getting a little bit too greedy. When you don't hit that first trade onto Melvin, you need to leave because you don't know what else is coming for you. And you don't know where Melvin specifically repositioned to. And even if you did, I mean, winning the fight against the chamber is just hard. Maybe you can deal some damage, but Melvin has been so good about locating out of there. I mean, teleporting out. There's just not really a world where you can 1v1 him, and unless you're going to invest heavily enough to 1v3 him, it's going to be really hard to trade. And this is one of the problems, I mean, with running the Vice here, it's harder to just set a Sentinel up on A and leave it alone to play the retake. We actually haven't seen really much of a full retake from Baker Swarm at all. I mean, in this round, they don't really have the guns for it either. Wick, you maniac. You absolute loon. What was that?
All right. Paul, I just saw the UCSD playbook for that round, all right? We'll just press W and left click and see what happens.
Yeah.
That's how both of those final kills went off. No, but I 100% agree with you. I think Baker Swarm is just being far too aggressive for the playstyle that they're running into, right? Melvin has won every single lurk engagement, every single round. Doesn't matter if they're on A or B, they're walking away with something every single time. So instead of giving it up to them, just keep an eye on like common angles that they're coming from.
And look at this. Now Fate is holding the op. So he's going to go up against Melvin in mid. I mean, wow, that is the quickest ramp control I've seen in a while. And Fate feels pressured now too.
No, you have to.
The wall has to go. I mean, it has to go up. You can't let Fate get swarmed by someone sneaking through. And Dumbbell doesn't feel confident enough to actually hard poke that angle.
And I don't blame them. I think this is that tepidness coming into fruition, right? They're just being careful. They're playing smart and they're not going over aggressive. But still, see moments like this where Loki Cow completely caught off guard and Melvin wins the engagement against the operator in mid. Right, there's a small silver lining for Baker with one frag, but that's only one player from UCSD. Where B has fallen, they can go on site, they see that it's empty from the Trailblazer, and the wall is up, so there's no noise that can be communicated over to Baker Swarm.
Yeah, Cosmic Divide, I mean, that is the freest B site I have seen in my tenure casting Valorant. There's not much hope for at least a plant denial. Spike is planted now. Rolling Thunder available. Expect Baker to go for this. They have to use their ults. The game is getting away from them. A 3v4, potentially winnable, but someone needs to clear Melvin out of heaven.
And no one is. Dumbbell's gonna make so much noise. With Melvin finally realizing that, hey, the Astra's here. Let me go ahead.
Now it's cooked.
Rip their head off. Yeah, it's cooked. And you're seeing the call to save being made again for Baker Swarm. You have these two ultimates. You have to find the right time to be able to use them. You have the Vice's ultimate. You have the Breach's ultimate. But it's not going to do you any good with the amount of players still alive for UCSD. So again, right, UCSD is not only winning these rounds, Paul, but like you only lose one player to make it happen. Maybe two here, right? Maybe 3?
And even if they lose, I mean, none of that money matters to UCSD. It was worth going for ladder moves as weapon.
Yeah.
UCSD, they're living on trust fund money, that old money. And they're going to be living on it for a while. Look here, I mean, you don't even really need to pop the ult here, if I'm going to be honest, Melvin. Finally, we do get the timeout calls from Dumbbell. I think this is well-timed. Any later, and it would have been kind of egregious. Need to try and recover this defense. I do think that the defense is going to be where Baker Swarm's composition struggles the most.
Absolutely.
Based on just the sheer quantity of flashes. They have a lot to take space, but they don't have much in regards of holding space unless they get favorable timings on some of their utility. Like if you get the right information, maybe you can get a paint shell or an aftershock in, a gravity well. But the problem is they actually have also pretty much zero information gathering on their team as well. There's no information initiator on this team. There's no Sky, there's no Teo, there's no Sova, right? They don't have a way to get hard info. They're relying off maybe the Vice, but primarily just pure unadulterated audio cues.
And we've seen how that's impacted them in so many of these rounds, where the strategy has just been, let's poke our heads out and see if someone's there. Oh, wait, we've lost it now. And that's also kind of the thing that we're seeing from UCSD is also they're just firing on all cylinders tonight. They wanted to come into week 1. They wanted to make a mark. And so far in this half of split, they're looking fairly good. But it's like you said, Baker Swarm, this isn't that defense-sided map. This is that attack-sided. We'll see what happens when they get that opportunity.
And it's worth noting, too, that this is UCSD's map pick, so not terribly surprising that they are well drilled on it. Look at all of the players, though, that are holding over by B for Melvin because they know how difficult he is to trade. Meanwhile, it's just a slow contact play. Courtesy of the Viper Wall, they've snuck in, they've spotted ladder moves. That should be the bonus to go, but actually a very well-timed flash from ladder moves. Picks up Wick. Without Wick, it's a little bit tricky to actually get into the A site. You don't have a smoke for Heaven now.
I love this though, right? You can tell that the timeout is doing so much for this team. Ladder Moose wants to double dip in, try to take another fight, but instead low-key Cal is always on the ball every single time when it comes to those headshots. You've lost the wall, you've lost the Vice ultimate. I could have done something here. This Rolling Thunder is going, oh my god, over the top for the double kill from Demon. Put a new one on the battlefield, and this Viper is at 12 HP. They're gonna try and get ahead of the ball, right? Low-key Cal has been deadly, but at this stage of the game, you just start firing, you start spraying and praying, and guess what? For Baker Swarm, prayers came true. An excellent timeout for this team, and one that was desperately needed, losing only one player.
Do you call that divine intervention with Dumbbell coming in and like waving his hand and being like, here, you will win a round? No, I don't know if it's that simple. But either way, really nicely done by Baker Swarm. I love the tempered aggression we saw from Fate and Riceballin. They early flash, they get control of B main, they force Melvin away from that lurk, and then that gives them more flexibility once contact comes with the rest of the team to quick rotate over. You saw how quick Demon and Riceballin were able to actually get toward A. I mean, Riceballin was able to even use the Rolling Thunder while the spike was being planted, giving Demon that opening. So really nice stuff. That's what I want to see more of from Baker Swarm in this defense. Give some space tactically, and then use your aggressive composition to retake it once UCSD has overcommitted.
Good clear through of Vim with that Trailblazer. And you're going to see again inside is Chrome.
Chrome is on a bit of an island right now. He's just hoping someone's going to peek into him. I mean, he gets a lot of information here, but if he loses this fight to Demon, the attacking plan falls to pieces.
This is big for Fate. This is big for Fate, right?
Nice.
Grabbed your one. You're setting up for the TP to get out of there. Holding the line. It was close for Frost, right? You landed the headshot. It's not enough to kill them, but it is enough to bring them down so low. And Riceballin saw the guiding light with how close it was. They're going to be playing very carefully. Quick flash, just to make sure no one's on the other side.
Love that.
But we've lost Melvin, right? We don't know where Melvin is.
Melvin hasn't had contact at all this round.
Yeah.
He's looping back around to try and play into B tower, fake, and pull more players over? I don't know, man. I would have liked to have just seen him clear the A site, but I guess the Vice utility makes it too difficult. He just wants to put one in an ear. But he's got to find a head first, right in the face. Dumbbell falls.
But wait, look at this. It actually draws away.
It does.
Vice. Ladder Moves is leaving the site. but realizing where the Seekers are coming from is going to come back over here. They're going to hear the spike being planted, and you know that Frost is at 30 HP. You cannot let them get away with this. They're gonna go forward. Here it is, the ultimate being used, but Chamber far enough away because they're gonna impact themselves. Look at the corner. Oh my word. I got scared for just a moment, but the spike is planted for Melvin. They could go and take this fight. It's right in front of them, right? You look over towards heaven. The flick just wasn't quick enough. Rice Ballin is gonna see Baker Swarm safely through another round.
It's a nice effort from Melvin, but Baker Swarm with another very favorable engage. I mean, the work that Fate is able to do in B main. And again, that fight into tower, Chrome left completely on that island. Yes, Chrome trades, but a trade's not good enough. You can't afford to lose heaven control if you want to plant B, especially since Wick falls in the fight in B main. It's just not going to be enough. UCSD still comfortably ahead, but how long will that 2-round lead last? An Odin here for Dumbbell too. He's gonna try and spam. He's hoping it's a B exec so he can spam through the sign.
I like it, right? I like the idea. I also like what Fate is doing. Whoa, 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 whoa! He's had enough of this chamber ball! Enough! Let me step into another dimension and blast you away with a shorty!
That is the most respect you can pay to a player. Hey, we recognize we're literally never going to beat you on the flank 1v1 in a fair fight. So I'm just gonna have my team full stun you. I'm gonna come out of teleport with a shorty and you won't have a chance. No, I don't love that ult either from Chrome. UCSD, with Melvin falling, they're floundering a bit in the middle of the map, struggling what to do. They're gonna go A, which is the right call. But man, the timing on this flashback site could be nasty.
I mean, oh, there it is. The Odin finally able to put its tally on the leaderboard here. Fate's still on the other side, but guess what? Rice Ballin is waiting too. They make their swing, get rid of Chrome. Another fight is going to happen here, but now it's down to the 2v3. Spike being planted. This is a very tenuous engagement. There is the Cosmic Divide, but really not an ultimate that you're going to find much value with out of this situation. Of course, you have Wick and Frost. Both of these players have been doing so much for UCSD. Finally, the regroup of the team is here. The Odin to be the first one to spray, and Demon holds their ground and blows it all away. Baker Swarm, ever since that timeout, Paul, it's just been round after round after round.
It's a complete shift up in the dynamic here from Baker Swarm. And you can see, I mean, that's the first time that they've got, quote, aggressive in the early round and actually picked a fight with Melvin again. And I don't know if that counts as the same stuff they were doing earlier, right? I mean, that's just a totally different look. Really nice work from Baker Swarm. They are within spitting distance. After I was worried this game was just going to get away from us and we were going to have a quick showing on split. Now it's a question, I mean, for these last 3 rounds, UCSD, they've whittled through their trust funds. They bought the helicopter and the yacht, but weren't paying attention to the bank account.
Oh, man.
Now they're starting to struggle on economy. I mean, they'll probably be able to buy 1 more round thanks to the loss bonus, but it's getting dicey. Ouch.
And no better way.
The first fair fight that Melvin has lost on the flank.
And no better way to disrespect a chamber, right, than to do it with an operator.
No, I do it with an op.
So Fate has had enough of this lurking chamber. Oh, and this Rice Ball in play could be massive, right? They're taking their fights inside of heaven, but nobody's keeping an eye in Vince. And Rice Ballin has just enough wiggle room to not expose themselves to the rest of the players that were in mid. And so now if you're UCSD, you're in this very unenviable position where the majority of Baker Swarm is still alive. And there's just not much you can do. And I don't know if they know low-key Cow is here.
They can't.
But hopefully, no.
Oh, now they do.
Right, yeah. Oh, it's still a good shot. Down to 92 HP. The regen shield's going to give them some room to work with, but ladder moves always loves throwing them away into the closet. This is Baker Swarm tying up split.
And even with the cheeky tech there from low-key Cow to get around the util set up in B main, even with the opportunity to get essentially a free pick on B main, I really think UCSD have just been kind of floundering in the middle of the map. There hasn't been 1 round where UCSD have gone mid that I felt confident about. It's usually Chrome way out ahead of the rest of the team, nobody able to trade him. Even there, I mean, why isn't there a smoke vent?